Hi, friends and fellas. Welcome back to my new lesson. Today's discussion is on gender and peace, an important topic in peace studies and feminism, presented by Feel for Philosophy.
Welcome. Today, we're digging into a huge topic, the connection between gender and peace. And I think you'll see that our traditional way of looking at global stability, well, it might be missing the most important piece of the whole puzzle. It's a question that honestly keeps people in international relations up at night. You see it all the time, right? A peace deal gets signed, everyone shakes hands for the cameras, it's all over the news, and then, just a few years later, the fighting starts all over again. So why is real, lasting peace so incredibly hard to achieve?
Well, what if the answer isn't about troop numbers or redrawing borders? The sources we're diving into today make a pretty bold claim that for decades, we've been completely overlooking a fundamental factor that literally determines whether a society will be peaceful or just spiral back into violence.
To find that missing piece, we have to look away from the battlefield for a second. We need a whole new lens to see the problem clearly, and that lens is gender. Now, I don't just mean women's issues. I mean using gender as a powerful tool to understand the very systems that create conflict and peace. So let's get on the same page about what gender means here. We're not talking about biology, we're talking about the roles, the meanings, and the expectations that a society assigns to people. You know, who's supposed to be tough and aggressive? Who's supposed to be the peacemaker? These ideas, which we just kind of absorbed from birth, shape everything, from how our families work to how our countries go to war. And this brings up another key idea. We talk a lot about equality, but for real justice, we need to be talking about equity. This picture says it all. Equality is giving everyone the exact same thing, assuming we all have the same needs. But equity is about giving people what they actually need to have a fair shot. In peacebuilding, this is huge. It means you can't just apply a one-size-fits-all solution. You have to fix the specific historical wrongs that different groups have faced. Ultimately, the goal here is something much bigger than just stopping the fighting. That's what scholar Johan Galton called negative peace, just the absence of active war. What we're aiming for is positive peace, and that's way more ambitious. It means building a society where justice and equality are just normal, where the systems that create violence are taken apart piece by piece. Okay, so this brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. There is a powerful, data-driven link between gender equality and how stable a country is. This isn't just a nice theory, it's a measurable fact. Gender equality acts like a peace multiplier. And here it is. Just let this sink in for a second. This quote from researcher Valerie Hudson is the result of decades of research, and it's absolutely stunning. Think about it. Not how rich a country is, not whether it's a democracy, not its ethnic diversity. The single best predictor of how peaceful a nation will be is how it treats its women. And the data backs this up, big time. Look at this. Over and over again, the research shows that societies with low gender equality are at a much, much higher risk for conflict and instability. So why? Well, one of the leading theories is that societies that treat women as subordinate essentially normalize violence as a way to maintain control. And when violence is the accepted tool at home, it's a very short leap for it to become the accepted tool in politics. This is why gender equality isn't just a social issue, it's a core national security issue. This link became so undeniable that in the year 2000, the United Nations Security Council, we're talking the main body responsible for keeping the world from falling apart, made it official policy. Resolution 1325 was a watershed moment. It was the world officially saying you cannot build a lasting peace without women at the table. And that resolution gives us a roadmap. It's built on 4 key pillars. First, participation. You have to have women involved in making the decisions. Second, protection. You have to actively shield women and girls from violence. Third, prevention. You have to get to the root cause, which is inequality. And finally, recovery. You have to make sure that when you're rebuilding, women's needs are front and center. Now, to really get why this matters so much, we have to understand that war is not the same experience for everyone. Conflict leaves behind what you could call deeply gendered scars. It hits different people in profoundly different ways. And let's be absolutely crystal clear about this next point. For far too long, sexual violence in war was treated as some kind of unavoidable side effect. That is completely wrong. The research is now undeniable. It is a calculated, systematic military tactic. It is used as a weapon to terrorize people, to shatter communities, and to achieve strategic goals, plain and simple. And these different impacts are felt across the board. Women and girls for sure face these horrific heightened risks, but men and boys are also victims of these gendered roles. They're forced into fighting, they suffer incredible trauma, and they're pressured to act out these aggressive, militarized versions of what it means to be a man. And then you have LGBTQ+ individuals who are so often invisible in these conversations, facing extreme, targeted violence with almost no support system. This is exactly why a concept like intersectionality is so critical. You can't just look at someone through the single lens of gender. A person's experience of war is shaped by all of who they are. Their gender, their race, their social class, their sexuality, all of it overlapping. A refugee woman from an ethnic minority faces a completely different set of dangers than a man from the dominant group in the capital city. Any real peace plan has to be able to see and address that complexity. So with all that complexity, what does a real, lasting peace actually look like? Well, it's not about hitting a reset button and going back to the way things were. It's about building something entirely new, a transformed peace. Because let's be honest, normal is usually what caused the war to begin with. The pre-war society was almost certainly full of the injustices and inequalities that created the violence. A transformative peace doesn't just put a bandage on the wound. It performs major surgery on the underlying disease. It reshapes the very power structures of that society. And this is so important. That transformation absolutely requires men and boys to be partners. This is not about blaming men. It's about freeing everyone, men included, from these rigid, harmful, militarized ideas of what masculinity has to be. It's about getting men and boys involved as allies, as people who can stand up and challenge violence in their own communities. That is a critical piece of the puzzle. When you boil it all down, it really comes to this simple but incredibly powerful truth. If the people at the negotiating table, the people writing the new constitution, the people leading the country after the war, if they all come from just one part of society, then the peace they build will only work for that one part of society. Inclusivity isn't just a nice-to-have feel-good idea. It is a practical, strategic requirement for a peace that actually lasts. And that leaves us with one final, big question to think about. War itself is changing. It's now fought with disinformation online. It's being fueled by climate change, creating resource scarcity. So as these battlefields shift and evolve, how do we make sure our understanding of gender and peace evolves right along with them, so we can build a world that is truly just and stable for everyone?
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages me to create more content. Thank you.